I am so excited today because I am here with Matteo Moretti, class of 2017, who is going to be talking with me a little bit about his most recent film, Just Being Here. Matteo, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Can you tell me a little bit about your Newark Academy experience? Were there any teachers who influenced you or any memories that stand out in your mind?
Yeah, I think NA, I started at NA when I was in 7th grade, so it's really a big part of who I am and, how I grew up. And between the teachers and also general faculty and students, I still have some of my best friends or my friends from NA, and I just got together with them yesterday. So that the bond there stands and has held, throughout high school, college, and afterwards, which I'm really thankful for. And I don't know, NA in general, just it taught me a lot about, having a good work ethic, I think, which has helped me in a lot of facets of my life. Obviously, with academics and whatnot, but also it's really helped me in my pursuit of a career in film. And along with that, just although I didn't explicitly do anything with film while I was at NA, a lot of different teachers helped me just with being creative in different ways, and I felt a lot of support in that. And also even, from some faculty as well, like, Miss Speck and Miss Brennan were always big cheerleaders for me, and, really helped me feel like myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really helped me in everything that I've done since NA.
Definitely. And you're a recent graduate of Middlebury College with a degree in environmental studies and film.
Yeah.
You said you didn't really do film at Newark Academy. At what point did you decide that that was something you're interested in and wanted to combine it with your interest in environmental studies?
Yeah, it was so while I was at NA, I'm really into fishing. So
Mm-hmm.
I had this super cringy YouTube channel where I would make videos of me and one of my best friends, Will Schwartz, who's the same year as me, going on little fishing adventures and whatnot. And that's kind of what I did throughout high school, just on the side in the background for fun. And then when I went to Middlebury, I decided to take a few film classes, and I started getting more into the technical knowledge of, how a camera works and how I can manipulate light in different settings, and actually understanding everything from the technical aspects to the storytelling side of things. And slowly I, realized that little fun YouTube channel thing that I did, there was something to that really spoke to me. And as I just immersed myself more in it, took some more classes in college, and then found some extracurricular opportunities, I guess, working for some fly fishing media company that makes video content. I started to realize that film was something that I was really passionate about. And then I think around my sophomore year, I kind of said to myself, you know what? Let's try and make this a reality. And so every step from that point forward was just figuring out more things about film, more things about storytelling, trying to get as many opportunities as I could in a wide variety of types of film. I was still doing a lot of the fishing, filming, and editing, but also trying to get work and doing some narrative projects with some students. So yeah, that's kind of how it evolved, and ever since then, I've kind of just totally been obsessed with it.
Yeah. Well, I think you beautifully capture nature in the videos that I've seen, including some of your fishing videos on your Instagram
Yeah.
page, which I watched. But your most recent documentary film, Just Being Here, which received a number of accolades so far. Let's watch the trailer, and then I want to talk a little
Yeah.
bit about it.
In 10 years I've been here, I probably haven't been more than a half mile from my house. To me, life is interesting and worthy of observing, not just seeing. I don't know, in ways maybe I just feel like I'm just a part of this, this environment around me. Come on, guys. Anybody want apples?
It's really a beautiful film. And I watched it during a week when our world was going through some crazy events. And it was, for me, just very meditative and reflective. And it was, it's just so wonderful. So can you talk a little bit about, how this came about? How did you hear about Walter or meet him?
Sure. Yeah. So I know one of my biggest goals for leaving or graduating Middlebury was I really wanted to come out with some sort of film or project that I could, one, be really proud of, but secondly, one that would really express who I am as a filmmaker as I go out into pursuing that as a career. So initially, I had a whole bunch of plans in the winter of 2020 to go and try and film this totally different film and got like funding from the school to go to Louisiana and try and film something about a Native American tribe there who lives on the coast and who's losing land by the day because of various effects of climate change. And then obviously, a lot of stuff happened between then and the fall of 2020, and that didn't pan out. So I kind of took what I was given, which was, the opportunity to still be at school on campus in Vermont that fall. And something that I was really thinking about, obviously, as a result of the times, was, about how isolated we are all feeling. And initially, I wanted to actually make a series of short profiles on people who lived inherently isolated lives and were involved in nature and the outdoors pre-COVID. That was just, the way they existed. So I took that and started talking to a bunch of professors and people that I knew in town. And one of my professors connected me with the local fish and game warden because he figured, oh, you're looking for someone in the outdoors, someone who's isolated. This guy probably knows a bunch of people like that. Mm-hmm. So I talked to the fish and game warden, and he gave me a few leads on different people in the community who were all really interesting. And at the end of the call, and I was taking notes, keeping track of the names who I was going to reach out to. And at the end of the call, he said to me, there's this one guy, and I don't remember his name. I don't have his phone number, and I don't exactly remember where he lives. But every so often he reaches out to me and says, hey, if you guys ever recover any roadkill that, is just totally mangled, bring it onto my property because I love watching, all different, birds of prey, other predators, scavengers, whatever, come out of the woods to just come and feed because he loves observing nature. Mm-hmm. And the warden also mentioned that he had a family of beavers in his backyard. And so I thought, wow, that seems like the guy that I want to talk to, but he didn't have any information at all. So I pursued the other leads that he gave me. I even started making a film about one of the people. And then 2 weeks after that, he gives me a call and says that he found the guy's name and phone number on a sticky note in a notebook in his basement. And he gave the guy a call, mentioned what I was interested in doing, and said that, and Walter, who it ended up being, said that he would be interested in talking with me. So I called up Walter, ended up having an hour and a half long conversation with him in which he was immediately open and vulnerable about everything. And I did the same thing. And, I talked to him about, things that I experienced similar to him. And the next day I went up to his property and met him. And then I spent the next week and a half or so just going up there a few times in the evening, maybe 3-4 days out of that week and a half with no cameras, nothing, just sitting and observing and watching what he does and talking a little bit. But for the most part, after we left his house and walked along that path, it was just silence, which was, I wasn't totally used to that. I'm used to filming all this fishing stuff. It's a lot of action, whatever. And sure, there's quiet moments, but I was used to something more fast paced. And this experience really forced me to slow down. So I began like that. And then after a week and a half, I finally brought cameras and then just spent the next about month and a half going up to Walter's 3 or 4 days a week and just filming and doing, getting different angles, trying to see if I can find different things every time I went there. And it was, like you said, for me too, it was quite a meditative experience. And it came at a good time because, I definitely needed something that helped me slow down after, the craziness of the beginning of that year. And then I'm going into my senior year and I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to get a job. I want to also make this project. What am I going to do? It was really nice to go drive. He lived half an hour from campus in the woods, no service. And I could just, be there with him and in that moment and with myself.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you talk about this because it sounded like he found trust in you and and that makes the film so that much better. Kind of that sense that he trusts you.
Yeah, that was something that I wanted to make sure that I established immediately, that, this whole thing was not about me, and respecting him and making sure that he came across as dignified, because he was my number one goal throughout making the whole film.
Right. Yeah, because there could have been, someone else could have come in and made him appear some crazy guy who's, talking to beavers. But it's really just amazing. So what was one of the most eye-opening moments for you during the making of this movie?
I think there are probably a few. I mean, one, I guess, kind of maybe obvious one would be just the fact that beavers would get, after the first few times, they got used to me. And there would be times where I was filming and they were just crawling through the legs of my tripod or right next to me. And it was a little weird. I wasn't, scared of them or anything, but it was a really interesting experience. And getting to see and hear them up close, they make all, like Walter mentions in the film, they make all these different noises, and just hearing them communicate with each other was really cool. But honestly, I think overall, every evening that I would go up there, they're all different, but they all kind of blend together into the one experience of getting to be still and just watch Walter observe things.
Mm-hmm.
He would just sit there in his little tree stand that he made and look around, and every once in a while he would pick up some binoculars and peer really intently at something, and then I would go and turn and try and see what he was looking at. And I think just seeing someone who's so connected to his environment, even though it's just this little tiny, half-mile area that's his backyard,
Mm-hmm.
was super interesting. And also just seeing the way that he opened up after a while. Like I said, he's in general, whoever he talks to, he's very open about, his depression and anxiety, which I think is great because, another big reason that this film really spoke to me is because, mental health is something that I feel like is really stigmatized. And,
Mm-hmm.
this one part of this film is just an attempt to make sure that it's talked about more. And it was really cathartic for me too, because there were things that I started talking to Walter about that I had never really talked to anyone about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that all just kind of gets wrapped up in, these little moments where we talk a little bit and then just sit in silence for an hour. And there is, another, when I went back in the winter to just film a few of those snowy scenes, and Walter basically only doesn't go out to see the beavers maybe 10 days a year. I went there in the middle of the winter, everything was frozen, and he went to the other side of the little beaver pond, set up a like camping chair, and took a little, piece of rebar or something, punched a hole in the ice, and was still feeding the beavers and hanging out with them in the middle of the winter. And that was a really fun experience too, to see that.
Wow. Has he seen the film?
He has, yeah. Yeah. When I was just close to being finished, I sent it to him. And, at first he did not react very well to it, and, said to me, I don't want anyone to see this. Basically just kind of told me no.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that moment, and I actually like started crying, not because, oh my gosh, I've just put so many months of work into filming and editing and whatever, but I started crying because I thought, wow, the one thing that I wanted to do this whole time was respect him. And I feel like him saying this means that I failed in some way. So I
Mm-hmm.
took, a day or two to collect myself, and I talked to some professors about how to move forward, because a lot of the things that Walter expressed that he didn't like were, the more sensitive parts, but I think the parts that really help people connect to his story and are also really inspiring. And as I was gearing up to have a conversation with him about, wanting to respect him, but also at the same time, these pieces of the story are really crucial, he called me back and said, hey, I watched it again, and I think you did a great job. And I don't want you to think that, I'm upset at you in any way. But I think it was just as much as he talks to other people about it,
Mm-hmm.
hearing himself say it really for the first time was obviously really shocking. And I can't imagine the emotions and thoughts running through his head. And then after that point, once he watched it that second time and gave me the okay, and he just requested that I, take out at the beginning, in one cut of the film, he says his full name, and he just asked me to take out his last name because he likes his privacy. And after that, he was okay with it, but has not watched it since then.
Yeah.
And I made a little separate cut of it for him that's basically just, a few of his lines about his connection with the place and the beavers, and then it's mostly just nice B-roll of him interacting with the beavers and some drone shots of his property, just so he can, have something that he can watch and enjoy. And, yes, it's, no matter how okay with it he might be, it's still hard to watch for him.
Right.
But I'm really thankful that he's trusted me with this, and I always keep in contact with him. And the one thing that I always do is, ever since I first started showing the film to people, anytime someone has sent me a text or an email or whatever, or called me, I've taken screenshots of it and emailed it to him just to let him know, because he never saw himself as someone that could be inspiring to others. And I think it's really important that he does see himself in that way, because he is.
Mm-hmm. It's wonderful. I mean, you were clearly more than just a filmmaker. So, and you also worked with your brother on this project, who's also a Newark Academy alum, who did the score, and the score really works beautifully with it. So,
thank you.
Are there any other projects in the works now, or things that you're thinking about doing?
So for the past year, I moved to Carbondale, Colorado to work with an outdoor filmmaker and photographer, and just kind of get a lot of hands-on experience with all parts of the process. And we've worked on a lot of small, short ads that have, really helped me dial in certain parts of my skills. The big project that is coming up, we're going to actually leaving this Sunday to go to Alaska to film a documentary there for 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
About a kid who's about my age, who's from this small village in the middle of Bristol Bay, which is this really important region of Alaska that's like one of the last strongholds for salmon in the world. And he's just a really pivotal figure in his community. So we're doing that, which I'm really excited about. And that's a joint project with my boss, another director, and then I'm going to come along to assist. And then I'll be heading to Greece in July to spend some time with my grandpa in his village. And I'm going to try and make a documentary there, basically just about, you have this village in the middle of the mountains in Greece, and you have, most of the population is really old, but they just have this incredible vitality to them. You have 100-year-olds out like feeding chickens, herding goats, tending to their garden. So I really want to capture this village, as a character of its own, and those people, but also specifically through the eyes of my grandpa. And, my grandmother passed away 2 years ago, and he's gone back to Greece every summer since he immigrated here when he was 15 by himself. And this will be the first year that he's there without her. So I kind of want to tell a story of, how do you exist in a space that has such a, special place in your heart. That's where he was born. That's where, he grew up until he moved here. How do you exist in that space without the person you love? And how does the vitality of the community help to uplift him? And this has been something that I've wanted to do for years now, because I grew up going to the village when I was young for a few weeks every other summer, and it's just been a place that's been really important to me and how I grew up. So I'm really excited to do that and spend some time with my grandpa and see what comes of it. I don't know, maybe some film will come out of it, maybe it won't, but I just want to take the opportunity to do it because it means a lot to me.
Yeah, that sounds incredible and like a worthwhile trip. So, well, I encourage everyone to go watch Just Being Here right now. And I know that we'll be seeing amazing things coming from you. So thanks for taking the time today to do this. And
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
please share all your projects with us.
I definitely will.
All right. Thanks so much, Matteo.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.